This is a big one and one I'm excited for. Today in this episode, we're going to talk about my Duesenberg Starplayer TV. So let me paint a picture for you. The year is 2020. Yes, that 2020. COVID is happening and the world is about to shut down, but my birthday is coming up and that's where this guitar comes in. This is the Duesenberg Starplayer TV, and just to quickly talk about it itself, per usual, the specs are stock. As they make it is the way I've kept it. It's been a super reliable guitar, so I haven't had to change anything. My birthday is coming up and I decided that it was time for my next big purchase this year. And so I had my eyes and heart set on this one. And when I tell you, I really wanted this one, and I feel like I've said this in other episodes, but if the house was burning down and I can only save one guitar, this one. I think I said that about the Gretsch too, but this one. Part of the reason for that just came from the influences that were playing this guitar. There's so much to say. Where do I start? Let's talk about why I got this guitar, who influenced me to get this guitar, and go from there. I think the very first person I saw play this was Nigel Hendroff. It's Hillsong's Nigel Hendroff, and he had the blue one, and the first time I saw it, I was like, what is that thing? Obviously, he's a killer guitar player. Enough said about that, but that guitar just caught my attention. I've talked about this group before, but in the Spanish-speaking Christian world, we have the group called Barak, and Josué Capén. He also plays a Starplayer TV, or at least he did for some time, and it was actually the black one that I have here. So those are probably the top two notable players that you could look up and see them playing this guitar. This guitar brought about something new as well that I hadn't had in any other yet. You know, talked about the trifecta, talked about the Gretsch, talked about from high end to low end, but this was the first guitar I had that had a different pickup configuration. So what I mean by that, so it has a P90 in the neck and then a humbucker in the bridge. Up until this point, I either had single coils all around or humbuckers all around, but this one was the first one that I really started experimenting with having a different configuration. At this point, there wasn't really, something I was searching for like I had been in previous guitars. I was an intermediate guitar player and I felt like I had everything I needed. So at this point, it was really more of a want than any kind of needs that I felt I needed. It was kind of just my goal every year to just buy a new guitar, to keep working towards it, and just kind of always kept me inspired, knowing that, hey, if I continue to work hard, continue to save up, continue to improve my skills, when I get that next new guitar, it's just going to be something new and shiny that I can just enjoy and keep growing with, right? So let me go back to 2020. As I said, my birthday was coming up and it was time to get that next new shiny purchase. And I remember thinking, okay, this is Duesenberg. If you're not aware, Duesenberg is a German company, and so I knew the guitar would be coming from overseas. Now, I've Amazon as much as the next person, but when I tell you I had not had a lot of experience with like customs and shipping things in, I was about to walk into a brand new world with that. So let me tell you about that. I ordered the guitar in May because my birthday was in June. So I thought, hey, I'll have at least 3 to 4 weeks. That seems like plenty of shipping time to get my guitar, and boom, happy birthday to me. Well, little did I know, with COVID affecting the world and everything that's going on there, this guitar also had to be heavily scrutinized, and I can't remember all the details because it was so long ago, if it was the ebony fretboard or it's just the way customs works with importing guitars and the materials, I don't know. But the point is, I was dealing with customs on a weekly basis because those 3 or 4 weeks, my birthday came and went, and I had not received the guitar yet. And I remember having to call to customs in New York to say, hey, where's my guitar? This was probably the most expensive purchase, along with the Gretsch. I talked about that in my last episode. I've just thrown down a bunch of money and I do not have anything to show for it. I guess what happened, it got stuck on one of those cargo ships, and it just, in my mind, I was picturing like the movies where you just see all those big freights in those bunch of containers, and they were telling me that, yeah, we can see the tracking, we can see it was shipped from Europe, but it's on one of the containers, and we just haven't gone through all the containers yet. I'm sure COVID had some influence on it, custom restrictions another factor, but all in all, to save you the long story and all the conversations and emails I had to have back and forth with them, I didn't get this guitar, gosh, it must have been maybe like September, I remember. So what's that, May, June, July, August, September? Yeah, like 3 or 4 months before I got this guitar from the day I ordered it. It was almost a Christmas present to me, to myself at that point. Nonetheless, it was in perfect condition. It survived all that time on the ship, and so I'm just super thankful that it got to me in a great condition, because otherwise that would have been a whole other thing, trying to have to ship it back and then back and forth. Anyway, it made it. Want to come into the recording?
I can't be in the recording.
Just wave at the camera. The violence has been recorded. So that story and that struggle of trying for months to get the guitar safely to my home is probably why it is the nearest and dearest to me out of all the ones I have up until this point. It wasn't something I just bought and then boom, I just had it at home. You know, it was like I had to actively communicate to get this thing to me. Might seem a bit silly, but I don't know. It brought me closer to the guitar. When I think back on those times, this guitar really marked for me just a whole new era of music and playing and recording. So I've talked about that as well in some of my other episodes about how I started recording with the Strat, but during COVID, you know, churches were closed, and so a lot of churches, including ours at the time, went to the digital online format, and so that means we were doing a lot of recording. And so I, for one, was thankful that I had been practicing that, because little did I know I was about to start recording every single week. Now I want to kind of pivot and talk about music, because I think if you haven't gathered by now, I'm kind of in 2 different worlds, but I wasn't always, right? I've talked about some of these Spanish influences in the Spanish Christian world, but also English influences in the English speaking world. And for me, you know, I grew up with Spanish, so English has come after. So classics and oldies in American CCM are still very new and very fresh to me. So going back to Nigel Hendroff, when I started listening to more American English CCM music, I remember the first song I saw him play was I Surrender, right? And that song, to this day, along with this guitar, when I think of that song, I think of this guitar. And when I think of this guitar, I think of that song. They're just, to me, they're just synonymous. And I just remember the riff that was in that song, the tones that were in that song. Of course, I know there's another guitar player and he's outstanding as well, but Nigel had the Starplayer, hence why I'm focusing on him. And Nigel does the solo, and I mean, come on, I was blown away. Before I forget, I gotta give a shout out to my good friend Luis. He actually went to a guitar camp that had several guitarists from just across the worship, English, Spanish, just from across the worship scene. And he actually met Nigel, and check this out.
What's your name?
My name is Luis.
Luis.
Yeah.
Hey, Eli, I'm here with Luis. I just want to say, hey man, sorry you're not here. Sorry I missed you, and hopefully I get to meet you one day.
Yeah. Eli is for you, Eli.
Yeah man, bye.
Bye.
So that's pretty cool. And thank you, Luis, for that. The very first thing when I got this guitar was learn how to play that song. And so this guitar really signified me diving more into English CCM, and it continues to be one of my go-tos along with the Gretsch. Whenever I need to play English CCM, this is probably the one I go to the most. So this guitar for me, it has the best tremolo I've ever played, but as I said, it's synonymous with that chapter in my life, with the song I Surrender, and just COVID as well. Unfortunately, this guitar really got me through in terms of musicality, playing through everything that I needed to do. Oh, and I'll touch on this more in some of the upcoming episodes, but this guitar also marked the chapter when I started working with Hope. So if you guys have seen any of my other videos, Hope Worship is a big part of my life, not just because of the music, but the people, the church. I love them all, and they're all so great. But I remember as we started coming out of COVID and started reaching out more and started just continuing to doing more events and stuff, like Hope is one of the integral partners that came about. This guitar I affect with the beginning of that chapter. I've acquired some more guitars, as I said, and we'll talk about those since then, but this Duesenberg, COVID, English CCM, Hope, all kind of happened in the same general time frame, right? And it just led to bigger and better things. And so we'll talk about that. This one I can say absolutely, this one will never leave my collection.